free after 20 years. The prison gates opened. A cold wind touched my face. After 20 years, I was free. I took a deep breath. The air smelled fresh, different from the prison air. It smelled like life, like change. I stepped forward slowly. My legs felt weak, but I kept moving. The world outside looked strange. Cars moved faster. People walked quickly, looking at small screens in their hands. I had never seen such things before. Everything felt new, yet unfamiliar. I had no family waiting for me, no friends, just a small bag with old clothes and a few dollars. I didn't know where to go, but I knew one thing: I was free. And that was enough for now. I walked down the street, feeling the sun on my skin. It was warm, gentle. I closed my eyes for a moment and smiled. It was my first time feeling the sun like this in 20 years. In prison, I only saw it through a small window. Now it was everywhere. I passed a cafe. The smell of coffee filled the air. I stopped and watched people sitting and laughing. I used to love coffee. Maybe I would have one soon. Maybe I would taste freedom, one small step at a time. A bus passed by, and I saw my reflection in the window. My hair was grey. My face had deep lines. Time had changed me. I was not the young man who went to prison. I was someone new. But who? I had to find out. I kept walking. I needed a plan, a place to stay, a job, a new beginning. But first, I needed something simple, something normal, a hot cup of coffee. I walked into the cafe. A small bell rang above the door. People sat at tables, talking and laughing. The smell of coffee filled the air. It was warm and rich. I stood near the counter, unsure of what to do. A young man in an apron looked at me. "What would you like?" he asked with a smile. I hesitated. "A coffee," I said. My voice sounded strange, even to me. I had not ordered coffee in 20 years. "What kind?" he asked. I didn't know how to answer. In prison, coffee was simple, black and bitter. I looked at the menu. So many choices. Latte, cappuccino, espresso. The words felt unfamiliar. "Just black coffee," I said finally. The man nodded and poured a cup. I took it carefully and found a small table in the corner. I sat down and held the cup in my hands. It was hot. The steam rose into the air. I took a sip. The taste was strong, a little bitter, but good. Better than prison coffee. I closed my eyes and let the warmth fill me. This was my first coffee in freedom. As I drank, I listened to the people around me. They talked about work, family, and weekend plans. Normal things. I had missed these sounds. I had missed life. Then I heard a voice. "Excuse me, sir, do you need help?" I looked up. A woman stood beside my table. She had kind eyes. I swallowed and nodded slowly. "Yes," I said. "I think I do." The woman sat across from me. She smiled gently. "My name is Lisa," she said. "I work at a shelter nearby. I help people who need a fresh start." A fresh start. That's what I needed. But could I really start over? "I just got out of prison," I said honestly. "I don't know where to go." Lisa nodded. not surprised. "You're not alone," she said. "Many people feel lost when they get out, but you don't have to do this alone." I looked at my hands. They were rough, aged. "I don't have money. I don't have a job," I admitted. "I don't even know how things work anymore." She placed a small card on the table. "Come to the shelter," she said. "We can help with food, a place to sleep, and finding work." I stared at the card. A shelter, a new beginning. Did I deserve it? Could I really change my life? Lisa stood up. "Think about it," she said. "Doors are open when you're ready." Then she walked away, leaving me alone with my thoughts. I finished my coffee slowly. The cafe felt warm, safe, but outside the world was big and unknown. Could I step into it? Could I try again? I picked up the card. Maybe I would go. Maybe this was my chance. I stepped outside the cafe. The air was fresh, but the world felt big, too big. Cars rushed past, people walked quickly, and bright lights flashed everywhere. It was nothing like the prison yard. I looked at the card Lisa had given me. The shelter was 10 blocks away. I started walking. The city had changed. Tall buildings stood where old shops used to be. New signs, new streets, new faces. Everything was different. As I walked, I passed a clothing store. My reflection in the glass stopped me. A thin, tired man stared back. My clothes were old, my shoes worn. I did not look like I belonged. I turned away and kept walking. A group of young men laughed on the sidewalk. A family held hands as they crossed the street. A little boy ate ice cream with his father. I had forgotten these small, simple moments of life. Then I saw a park. I stopped and sat on a bench. The trees were tall, the grass green. People walked their dogs. Children played. Birds sang. It felt peaceful. I closed my eyes. I remembered my past, the mistakes, the years lost, the people I had hurt. Could I really start over? Could I find a place in this world again? I opened my eyes and looked at the card again. The shelter, a fresh start. I took a deep breath and stood up. It was time to try. I reached the shelter as the sun was setting. The building was simple, with a blue door and a small sign that said Hope Centre. I hesitated before knocking. A man opened the door. He was tall, with grey hair and kind eyes. "Come in," he said. "You must be new." I stepped inside. The air smelled of warm food. People sat at tables, eating and talking. Some looked tired, others hopeful. It felt safe. Lisa saw me and smiled. "I'm glad you came," she said. "Are you hungry?" I nodded. I had not eaten all day. She handed me a tray with soup and bread. I sat at a table and took my first bite. It was simple, but it tasted good. After dinner, Lisa sat with me. "Do you have any family?" she asked. I shook my head. "Not anymore," I said. "I lost them long ago." She nodded. "You're not alone," she said. "Many people here are starting over, just like you." I looked around. Some people smiled at me. Others nodded. For the first time in years, I felt something strange. Hope. Maybe, just maybe, I could start again. That night, I slept in a real bed for the first time in 20 years. It was small, but it was warm. I listened to the quiet sounds of the shelter, soft voices, footsteps in the hall. It felt different from prison. It felt safe. In the morning, Lisa gave me clean clothes. A fresh start begins with small steps, she said. I changed into a new shirt and pants. I looked in the mirror. I still saw the same man, but something was different. After breakfast, Lisa introduced me to a man named John. He helped people find jobs. "Can you work with your hands?" he asked. I nodded. "I used to fix things," I said. Before everything." He smiled. "Good. There's a workshop nearby. They need help. It's a start. A start. That word again. I wasn't sure if I was ready, but I said yes. As I walked outside, the sun felt warm on my face. The world was still big and new, but I wasn't afraid anymore. I took a deep breath. It was time to live again.